Rock this world!
So you're a studio musician, a session musician. Are those two terms interchangeable basically? I've never really thought about it.
Yeah, I would kind of think so, right? Most of the time when I think of a studio guy, I normally think about the people who work at the studio, right? Like the engineers, the producers. Most studios, pro studios that I've been in, there's also just like people on staff that are there to fix stuff because things are constantly breaking in recording studios, right? But yeah, I get paid to show up and record guitar for people's session. That part of my career I've always thought of as I'm a session musician.
It sounds like you are indeed making a living at this. How has that trajectory been? Like, how hard is it to actually get to a place where, because this is a full-time job for you, correct?
Yeah, I'm a full-time working musician. And I think with anything, like, I have a lot of friends who are older professional musicians, and their careers, like in the 80s and 90s, more so in the 80s, this started to kind of change in like the late 90s, early 2000s. It seems, I wasn't around that time, but what my friends have told me about this is that like it was much easier in music to make all of your money doing one thing. I have friends who were like guitarists for an artist, a notable artist, and they could make their money just doing that, or just doing sessions, or like just teaching. I think that's changed. I had a really good lesson with one of my guitar teachers one time where he like laid out what he called the spider web of his career. There was a portion of that was teaching, and there was a portion of that was gigging, and there was a portion of that was studio work, and then publishing. Like he had some guitar books that he had published. And so I saw that and kind of modeled my career off of that. So in no way do I fully make my money doing sessions for other people, right? It's a chunk. It's a part of the spider web of my larger music career. I make an amount of my money teaching. I teach at Front Range Community College, teaching private guitar lessons there, and also a history of rock course and some other things. I also tour and play with a bunch of different groups. And then studio work is an amount of that. And then kind of my last spider web is I have a bunch of courses on this website, truefire.com. And so when people buy those courses, I make some money on the back end. And so it's weird because the studio work is just a portion of what I do, but it's kind of the thing I'm most passionate about, especially now in my career. It's like the thing that I'm working the hardest at to get better and better at all the time.
Why is that, out of curiosity? Like, what drives that passion for session work?
I just love it. It combines a lot of stuff that I think I'm good at or that excites me about music. It's the perfect combination of being creative on the spot, which is a thing that I always have loved, and then also the kind of like precision and execution element of music in other like the other areas of my career. Sometimes I get one or the other in a way, right? But being a session guy, especially kind of on the fly, like getting the call, hey, next week come by, we need somebody to record some guitar solos on this thing. Sometimes I get sent the music, sometimes I don't. So I'll get there and hear this stuff and say, okay, looks like you guys are looking for this kind of vibe. I have to think on my feet. And then once I've kind of developed the idea, then I have to, execute it, play it in time, play it in tune, all this kind of stuff. So I really like that. Oftentimes like a gig, sometimes it's just kind of executing and just trying to play as best as you can, right? Sometimes gigs can be both depending on the group. Like there's a fair amount of improvisation or, kind of making music collectively. And then sometimes, especially kind of like artist gigs where you're getting hired to be a sideman, right? You're just kind of like there playing the parts the best you can. So I enjoy those two elements for sure, but I think session work, in my opinion, is like 50-50 right down the barrel, like both the things I love in music.
So you mentioned, you get called in, you listen to the music, and then you have to kind of think on your feet and create. What is the turnaround time on that? Like, are you like doing the music right there on the spot and they're recording it, or do you go home and fiddle around and come back? How does that work?
So there's really kind of like two scenarios I've found myself in doing this, which is one, they've rented time at a studio and they want you to come by and do it right then, right? And then the other thing that really started to bloom during like COVID times, for me at least, was kind of remote sessions. And so I think that this is also maybe a fun thing if anybody's interested getting into this work. It's really important to eventually build a good enough home studio to record your instrument at a professional level. Like, I have all the great gear to record electric and acoustic guitar very well, but that's it. I can't record a drum kit. I can barely do vocals. Like, I don't have any of the other gear to do anything else. I have a very specialized home studio just to do guitar stuff. But with those sessions, it's a much longer process because, like, what I try and do is I'll give people 3 options, like my gut, like whatever notes they gave me, like we're kind of wanting X, X, and X. I'll try and replicate them. And then I'll try and do like the B side to that, just another option. And then I'll give them kind of what I would do or like my fun take, right? And then sometimes, if you're lucky, from those 3 versions, they're really happy with one, and then you're cool, right? Or sometimes they're like, hey, we really love B, but could you end it like you did the one on C? And then you gotta go do that and send it back to them. The feedback from whoever you're working with is incredibly important. And I've noticed that when those folks have super clear feedback, man, it makes my life a whole lot better. There was a nightmare session I did one time where, like, I don't know, man, try it again, and by the end I was like, I can't just keep doing endless takes. I'm gonna go get lunch. You go find Spotify examples of guitar solos you like. And when I got back, they're like, if you could play it like this guy, we would love that. And I heard it, and it gave me such like the exact frame of reference I needed, that they then nailed it in the very next take after hearing what they wanted, right? So yeah, that's kind of a pet peeve I have, is like when they spout hippie poetry about what they want this to sound like instead of giving like specifics,
It sounds like you've kind of figured out ways to get clear feedback from people who aren't good at giving feedback. And it sounds like one of them is literally just tell me who you want me to sound like so I can do it. I'm kind of curious, like, what you've learned in terms of directing your clients so that you both have a better relationship, and kind of where revisions and pricing play together.
The story I just told, that was a time that taught me a lot about everything you just said, right? So
yeah.
Normally, especially like that call was out of the blue, very last minute, I'll at least, tell me some names. If you have reference tracks, like, man, we really love Carlos Santana. Okay, cool. I can do Carlos Santana-y things. We really love the tone of this guitar solo. These types of things are way more specific than like the word bluesy. You know what I mean? Like, we want some bluesy guitar solos. Well, does that mean you want B.B. King? Or does that mean you want Jimi Hendrix? Or does that mean you want Jerry Garcia? Or some, all of those guys you could describe as bluesy, but they're very different sounds, right? So like, man, we just want you to come in and play some bluesy stuff. That is so kind of nondescript. Where if they go like, man, we want like some very like Jerry Garcia inspired stuff. Well, that is such a better frame of like, I kind of know what that world is way better than like bluesy, So yeah, I after that experience, I wanted to have like longer conversations with the artists that were hiring me and try and pin down some specifics, right? Like, not just, we want you to come in and play some slide guitar. Well, do you want like the slide guitar that you hear from the Allman Brothers? or Derek Trucks. I mean, those are very big, different worlds of slide guitar. Or kind of like the rock and roll, like there was kind of a bunch of records in the 80s that had, like George Thorogood, right? That's another kind of reference of slide guitar. So having these kinds of conversations with artists that are trying to hire you, I have found is very important. And just because somebody doesn't have like a great, like they're not super well versed in like music theory and they can't tell you the technical terms, I've found that just like referencing artists or albums they like, or show me a song that you like, that's a good way of kind of bridging that gap.
At the beginning, do you just like schedule like a 30-minute call or something, like a meet and greet, or how do you guys get the ball rolling?
Yeah, normally I try and do it like as they're trying to hire me. Like, I get the call for the session and then I'm kind of like quizzing them about what they want from me on this session. And it totally depends. Like, I've done sessions where they really they just needed kind of generic guitar, right? Just like play chords, strum chords, make the chorus big, make the verse small, these kinds of like classic things of recording a song. And then I kind of just played very simply a guitar solo and they're totally happy with it. And then some other groups, they want you to kind of be like mini guitar producer, right? And like totally revamp this track. Or you know what I mean? Like come in and reinvent the wheel on the guitar for this track, right? And so that's another thing I'm kind of trying to suss out in that initial call is like, am I a creative force in this session, or am I just showing up and kind of like playing the guitar on your record?
So you mentioned kind of this nightmare where you had endless revisions happening. How do you enforce like boundaries on revisions? Do you have like a contract that you use for every client, and what's in that contract to kind of make sure you're protecting yourself and your sanity?
I feel like everything I've learned in my music career has come from a bad time and then kind of like putting in boundaries so that bad time doesn't happen again, right?
Yeah. Well, like Bayside, one of my favorite quotes from one of their songs is you learn more from the harder times than the times. I can't remember how it goes now. You learn more from the harder times than the times when you've been fine or something like that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's true in life, but especially in music, because like there's no HR department or
Yeah.
there's no like rules of engagement or whatever for this stuff. It's just kind of a total person to person industry. Yeah, there's no kind of guardrails of what can happen in these situations. So you have to create them for yourself. And I'm still learning this, right? It's like the more sessions I do, the more kind of I kind of realize not only how to conduct myself musically, but also how to conduct the business portion of it. So the revision thing, normally in those kind of two scenarios when I'm just invited to a studio, normally what I'll do is say, absolutely, I got to leave at this time. So you have my time. I'll do endless whatever you want, but if you're offering me X amount of dollars, I'm going to be there for this amount of time. And then once that time hits, I'm out. You can pay me for more time on a different day or whatever, right? The remote session thing is much harder, and I put way more blockades in that. So I normally say like, I'll send you 3 versions and give me notes on those 3. And then hopefully after that, I'll make you a perfect take. Hopefully that is the one. If you need anything done on that, I can do that, but we're kind of done after that, right?
Yeah.
And normally that's worked out. I mean, I always in my head have the nightmare situation that like they hate all the 3 that I sent them. But then I try and make those 3 different enough that like either they want a combo of those 3, or so many times it's just been like, man, we love one. We don't need any revisions, right? But yeah, that's kind of, and like, then we can discuss more things because like my depths of what can do is kind of done at that point, right? Without spending even more time on this thing.
Diving a little more then into the protecting yourself, the mental health side of things, have you experienced burnout? And if so, like kind of on reflection, were there warning signs? And how do you kind of make sure to avoid burnout now?
I play the guitar all day, every day, right? Like my teaching schedule starts at like 10, and then if I have a gig at that night or whatever, like the guitar is in my hand all day long. And so what's helped me, and I am no therapist or mental health professional, but what's helped me is realizing what I'm actually burnt out on. It's really easy, at least for me, and I've noticed this with my students too, so I have some kind of backing on this, but it's really easy when you're working really hard and doing something all day, every day, to point to the umbrella thing as being what I'm burnt out on. It's like, I'm burnt out on music. Well, it's almost never that. I mean, really, like music is such a broad and beautiful thing that it's hard to get burnt out on music. It's easy to get burnt out on learning this song or you know what I mean? Or teaching this student or this concept, really, not even the student, but I'm burnt out on teaching this idea. And so what's helped me is realizing that it's almost never the big thing, right? Like when people feel burnt out, I see this with my students a lot. I'm like, it's almost never school that you're burnt out on. It's like, I'm burnt out on writing this paper or whatever, right? And realizing that really helped me out. And then finding the thing that I'm actually getting sick of and burnt out, and then, creating a barrier between me and that thing, right? If I'm burnt out on learning these tunes for this band that just hired me to go play with them, like I can't just be like, man, I got burnt out on your tunes. I didn't learn them, right? That's like just bad business practice. But what I can do is say like, man, after the 30-minute mark I'm working on these tunes, I get nutty. So I'm going to work on these things 30 minutes a day and then move on to something else. And then maybe I can even come back to it. What's helped me at least is creating like a boundary with those activities. For me, it's like this 2-part process. I got to find the specific thing that's burning me out. And then I got to say, okay, and like put some parameters or barriers on that thing, right?
It's actually really interesting the way you describe that. I do some freelance work for a athletics focused company.
Cool.
And I did some work on athletic burnout and athletic careers. And one of the things they talk about is like the importance of rest days, the importance of not overtraining. And a lot of the things you're saying, like capping things and just, moving on to something else, very applicable across, both apparently athletics, physical stuff, and also mental and music stuff. It's very interesting. Now that you've experienced burnout, now that you have these barriers in place, how has that changed things for you?
I've been playing since I was a kid and went to college for this thing and then left college and started doing this thing professionally. It's been my life. It's all I've done. It's a crazy and scary feeling, right? When you get burnt out on something that, one, is your livelihood, and two, feels like your identity in a way, right? And so putting these boundaries on this thing, and also realizing that like music for me is absolutely my livelihood, but it's a part of my identity, but it's not my entire thing. I have interests outside of this thing. I have activities I like to do outside of this thing. And realizing that helped me out quite a bit. It's like actually getting burnt out on stuff in music kind of helped me develop into a more well-rounded person. Like going through that journey and looking back on it, I'm actually kind of grateful for it a little bit, right? But while it's happening, it's the most like doom and gloom, spooky thing, right? For many years, just taught out of this room. I just had guitar students come to my house. At one point in time, I had like 25 or 30 students that would come to the house. And then I got offered this job to teach at a college. And I wasn't really sure how it'd work out. So instead of backing off on kind of my previous teaching life, I just did both at the same time. So I taught at the school from like 9 a.m. to like 1. And then I'd come home and I'd start teaching here from 2 to 9. So I was teaching from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And then after that, I would have to get like my practice in for stuff that was coming up. Also just keeping my chops up, all that kind of stuff. And that schedule was happening basically Monday through Thursday. And then I would hop in a van and go travel and go play gigs and come back Sunday night or Monday morning and do it all over again. And I did that for a semester. It was overwhelming, right? It was a scary feeling. And it coincided with me making the most amount of income from music I have, obviously, because every second of every day was spent making money. There was
Yep.
no off days. There was nothing, right? And yeah, totally burnt me out. And so again, I had to start saying, and I'm still working on this. It's still a work in progress, but I had to limit when I could teach, right? I can't really teach early morning on Monday because I just played a bunch of gigs. I got to sleep in that day because I probably got home at like midnight for 4 days in a row. So I need at least some time. And then I can go to school around noon. I feel good doing that. It didn't happen overnight. I think that's like the thing you got to fight is because it's really easy to be like, I'm done. I got to get away from this for a month. And just like, I don't know, man, being a responsible adult, you can't do that.
You mentioned how you can't wrap too much of your identity into like your work. That's another thing that they talk about in athletic burnout. And I think it's actually just very broadly applicable because I think wrapping, not to get too political, but wrapping your identity into too much of one thing can cause people to become very fragile when that thing gets attacked or when that thing is a source of strife. It can cause them to collapse. Like it can cause a real serious identity crisis. And when you see yourself as this thing or this thing as you, then an attack against it is an attack against you, and you lash out, you attack as if you're being attacked yourself. So I really I think that is really solid advice to not wrap your identity too much into one thing and to have a variety of interests outside of your passions, and maybe even, spend an amount of time like trying to discover new passions, complementary passions, just so that there is a kind of well-balanced, I guess, mental state. I don't know. Yeah.
That's absolutely what it is. It's maybe a silly example, but it's kind of the same thing. If you read anything about like the stock market, they'll tell you to like diversify, right?
Yeah.
Like if you put all your money into Apple or whatever, and Apple has a bad year, you have a bad year, right?
Yeah.
But if you're invested in 9 different companies or portfolios, this one can have a bad day, this one can have a bad year, and it doesn't affect you too much, right? And it's kind of the same. It's the same thing emotionally, right? You got to like diversify your interests, like emotionally, right? If I am music guy, which I am, right? And the same thing, some bad stuff happens emotionally or career-wise, musically. It makes it feel like that is happening. It's me, right?
Yeah.
And it's really not, right? Like I'm a husband, I'm a dog owner. I'm all these things that I take great pride in as well, and they're as important to me as music and my career. And it's the same thing as like diversified. Like if I'm feeling bad about this, well, I still have these things that I've invested in that are doing well, right?
So on Burnout, are there clients you actually turn down because you're like, oh, I can tell this is going to be bad. This is someone who's going to cause me to burn out. Have you ever had it in a scenario like that?
What you just said could apply to like students I've had, gigs I've taken, studios work I've taken. I read a book one time. That's one of my favorite books of all time. It's written by Tommy Tedesco, who was the guitar player in the session band, the Wrecking Crew, right? They're like on all those Beach Boys albums, all the Phil Spector music. He's the guitar player on it. So legendary, he's on a ton of albums, and he wrote this book called For Guitar Players Only. But it's good advice for anybody, which is he has this triangle of should you take the gig, and on each point of the triangle it says, is the money good, is the music good, and is the hang good? And then at the bottom of the page he wrote pick 2, and that's the whole page, right? And man, if there's one thing I've like totally lived my life off of, is that one page in that one book, which is really, it's a magical thing if you get all 3, right? And in fact, me and my buddy Ronnie, who I've spent a lot of time in a van with across the country, has often said that there's maybe a magical fourth point, which is if this will give us a good enough story that we can tell later. But anyway, I think that's kind of true, man. I've taken things just because like I've loved the people that are wanting me to do this. Like the hang is going to be so much fun. It's going to be like enriching, right? And the music is so good, right? But maybe the pay is kind of bad. But like I got something really great out of that gig or that student or whatever. Like a student, man, your musical interests and my musical interests are aligned. Plus you're a great guy. It'll be fun to hang out and discuss this music, right? Same thing with a gig, right? Like last night, I played this wild party, and it was all these guys I went to college with who I really haven't played with much of recent. They hired me to go play this Halloween party. Doesn't pay much, but like it was the best time because I was like, it was nourishing, like soul-wise, to like hang out with these old friends, play this very killer music that this guy Wes Watkins wrote. He was kind of the band leader last night. It's the same thing. It's like I'm picking those two sides. And then like on the other side, I can pick any of those 2 points of that triangle and it's going to be good for me, even if the money isn't good. If the money is good, then like either the music's really good and I'm going to have a fun time playing this music, or the hang's going to be good. And then that's even still worth it. Right.
I
So
love that. That's awesome.
honestly, man, I've like lived my life and built my career on that, thinking about that triangle. As long as two are aligned, like I don't ever really want to play a gig where the money's great, but like I'm not in love with the music and I'm not going to enjoy the hang. It's just not worth it to me. Even if it could, I don't know, set me off financially for a good amount. Like it's just not worth it. I'd rather take a lower paying gig where we're going to have some awesome green room hangs, or like the van ride's going to be fun. That's way like better for me than if those other 2 points of the triangle are bad, but the money is really good. It's like, it's almost not worth it.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. Not that I'm a career musician, but like I've actually purposely kind of avoided trying to even have money and music play together just because it can be very draining. So my whole ethos with my band is I want to do things that are creative. I want to make music, and I want to play shows in spaces where it's not so much like strangers that I'm playing to in a bar, but like friends, and we're all just having a good time. There's those two. There's no money, but the hang is good and the music is good. So
exactly, yeah. And I've played gigs like that, and they are incredibly nourishing, right? It's good for you. You see what I'm saying? It's like if the hang starts being bad, then like it's not worth it. Like it's such a genius thing that Tommy Tedesco wrote. Like these things are all kind of in like equilibrium, and they have to, you know what I mean? Like this one has to exist with this one for it to be worth it to you, right?
Yeah. I love that. So it sounds like you're playing basically sun up to sundown. I'm kind of curious, like how you keep your hands, your back, your shoulder, how you're keeping that all in working order, honestly, because I play bass like a few times a week, not very well either. And maybe that's actually the problem, is I'm not playing it how I should. And I'm just like, dang, my fingers, man. How do you keep yourself like healthy so you can keep playing at that kind of clip?
Yeah, well, part of it is kind of the clip, right? Like imagine, like if you were a NBA player and you didn't play NBA basketball for a month, and then you got into it. Like, so like I play every day, I can feel it. Even if I don't, like if I have a gig tonight, right? And if I didn't play guitar from now until the gig, like I'm going to feel it at that gig. I got to get some time in.
Got to warm up.
I got to warm up. And man, that used to not be the case. That like hit me kind of in my late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah.
Where like I needed the warm up time more. For me, the clip in which I'm playing all the time, like I can't take breaks. If I go on vacation for a while and I come back, it's happened every single time. Like I went on my honeymoon and I came back and I went back to my regimen of gigging and all this kind of stuff, immediately got injured, right?
Oof.
If you think about it, like it's funny, there's been a lot of parallels between like athletics and
Yeah.
guitar. And it obviously I am no athlete. I mean, hopefully you can see me, but
Me neither.
but like in a way, I'm kind of an athlete in
Yeah.
in
It's
in a very micro way.
it's a physically demanding thing that you're doing. That's
Yeah.
true.
It's
100%.
obviously not as demanding as like being an NBA star or whatever. When I have an injury, I always like get it checked out and stuff. And they've taught me like a lot of these like stretches that I can
Yeah.
do for the tendon stuff, like the carpal tunnel and tendons and stuff. I also use like a again, you see NBA players doing it on the bench or whatever, but those Theraguns, the like
Wow.
they're like
I have heard great things about those.
yeah, they're great. And so I'll hit my arms and my hands with that stuff. There's like a series of stretches I've learned over the years that I do kind of before and after I play, or if I'm starting to feel tight. And yeah, it's just like every time I've had to take a break from guitar, as soon as I come back, I can't ease back into it, right? With my schedule and everything. So I just have to play all the time. And
Yeah.
every time I've gotten injured, it's just like I have to stretch a whole bunch, use the Theragun, and I have to ramp up, get back to where I was. That's how I have to operate. But yeah,
No, that's how athletes do it too.
yeah.
Like when there's an injury, they have to basically start over. They have to what's the word? Stagger, increase, incrementally increase back to where they were.
And so it's nice. Every time I've been injured, it's actually kind of nice. It's not nice at all, but it's a good thing when I'm teaching because I can like put the guitar down and like do some stretches while I'm having the student practice something or, So I've found that having teaching as a part of my spider web is a good thing because even when I encounter that stuff, I can still teach, right? I could always still do that. Whereas gigging and the session work, I have to be at as much chops as I can have.
Yeah. Are there like resources for musicians in terms of like physical health care, mental health care, support groups? Is there any one that you go to or lean on when you're either feeling burnt out or when you do have an injury?
Not a centralized thing. I do. There's a company here I live in Fort Collins, Colorado. It's called the Bohemian Foundation. The Bohemian Foundation owns this space called the Music District. And at the Music District, they have, tons of resources. One of their things is that they have like musician mental health resources and groups and events and stuff like that. And that stuff has been great. But normally, that's the kind of only thing I've done that's a part of a big kind of musician exclusive thing. That's really great. It's very awesome. I'm very grateful that exists here in this city I live in.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And so then for physical care, are you just going to like a regular doctor, hospital, Instacare, whatever?
Yeah. Man, I hadn't been to a doctor in a really long time. And I went and I totally forgot how like squeamish I am. I got like my blood drawn and I like passed out. I couldn't handle it. But yeah, just that kind of stuff. I mean, again, it's such like small fry stuff. Most physical therapists, most doctors, when they say that you're a musician, they kind of know, that they know that you got to use your hands a bunch. They know that ears are very important, like ear health, when they do the scope, every doctor I've ever been to is like, you wear headphones a lot, don't you? They can see somehow that I do that, right?
That's wild. That is wild. So speaking of ears and like headphones and ear protection and whatnot, do you have a preferred brand? Do you wear like ear protection then?
Constantly.
Every single, and what's your preferred brand or like style?
Well, what? Oh, it's right here. This is like the best thing that's happened for gigging musicians recently is that they finally have, I have affiliations with some like gear stuff. I don't have anything with these guys. This is just the best thing this is a wireless, like for in-ears, like in-ear monitors. This is like $150 for the set, right?
Really?
So you plug this into the mixer, and then you wear this, and then you plug in you wear this and you wear the in-ears.
Yeah.
But this technology has somewhat been kind of gatekept by the price for a really long time.
Yeah.
And they were always like these big rack units. But now this company, XVive, and man, once that came out where it was like cheap enough that everybody could have them, I've seen all my buddies have that exact same rig. And all of us that I've talked to who have kind of made the big switch over to kind of having like, I've used in-ears when they were the big rack thing, but it was always like the band's rig. And I was kind of like tapping into their big rig.
Yeah.
But now that the technology is small enough and cheap enough that everybody has them, there's no excuse. It's by far it takes some getting used to. You're playing a gig through headphones from earbuds, very fancy earbuds is basically what they are. But what's beautiful about them is when you have a good set of in-ear monitors in and there's no music playing through them, they're like better than earplugs. You can't hear anything. Nice. Zero ambient noise, and then everything that you're hearing is being piped to you. And nowadays with all these digital mixers, like you can run your in-ears off of your phone.
That's so awesome.
Right, you connect to does your band have a PA system?
We do.
Do you have digital mix?
Yes, I believe so. I don't do the mixing myself, but yeah, our drummer usually runs it off of like his iPad or something. So
exactly.
Yeah.
That means everybody in your band could download the app and run your own in-ear mixes.
That's awesome.
That's amazing, right?
I'm gonna have to look into this. XVive, $150. That's awesome.
It's either 150 or 200, or it's right around there. The old ones were like $800 to $1,500, and they're these big rack units. This is great because I believe it's not the old school technology where like you get interference from radio. It might even be Bluetooth, but nice. Don't quote me on that. But it's some new technology that makes the wireless thing way easier, because it's never enjoyable to like wear those big foam, like what you would go like shoot your gun at the target practice with to play a gig, because like you've spent all this money on this beautiful rig of like you saying you're playing bass, like me. I spent X amount of money on this bass cab, and this bass has these pickups I put in it, and then I'm gonna
exactly
muffle everything and take it out. So you got to wear hearing protection, like it's unsafe. And again, I was lucky enough that when I first started playing gigs, I was in a bunch of bands with musicians who were older than me. And all of them had hearing issues. And all of them were like real hard on me about always wearing earplugs and stuff like that. So I did. And I always was kind of like, everything sounds muffled, right? And it always kind of sucks. You just have to you dial in your tone at home, and then you go like this and just like hope that it sounded good at the gig. Whereas those in-ear monitors, they're a game changer because they're safe, because you can pipe in an appropriate volume. You're also blocking out all the harmful stage volume and things like cymbals that really ring your bell. And then you can actually, you're hearing, especially on your phone where you can dial it in, you're hearing the band as if you're like recording a record.
Yeah.
A lot of it sounds better most of the time because you're not even hearing the room. If there's a weird wobble or a weird, some rooms, they'll have kind of a weird ceiling and it'll cause like a harshness or like a bounce back.
Yeah.
Like a slapback effect. And you cancel all that stuff out with the in-ears. I'm a huge proponent. I'm like, once this stuff came out, it's like, that's the future. Everybody, and it's $200, man. It's like, just don't buy the fun pedal you saw on YouTube this morning and go buy the stuff to have a small in-ear rig.
I also hate the foam earplugs. I haven't gotten an in-ear rig yet. I'm definitely going to look into that, though. I always use the Heroes. Those are the best things I've found.
When I was using earplugs a lot, the ones that there was two, and one is actually a local company here in Colorado called Decibel.
Decibel?
Bull, like a
Like the horns, yeah. Nice. I love it.
Decibels. And those are cool because they mold
Cool.
to your ear, but it's a kit you buy.
Interesting.
And I think you just you soak them in warm water and put them in your ear, and then they'll stick.
That's nice.
They're not like sticky. They'll stay
Yeah.
to the mold.
They'll actually, yeah, because that's actually the biggest issue I have with both the foam and the Heroes is my ears suck. They like halfway through a set, they'll almost be falling out. Yeah, I don't know what it is. So that's a really cool thing to hear too.
So the
Decibels.
decibels, they make that little kit that you can put in your ear, and it molds to your ear canal. And man, if you get the molded kind, I have really bizarre ear canals. Every doctor
Yeah.
ever told me this. I have a curve.
Interesting.
So my ear goes in and then curves this way.
Wild.
All the Apple AirPod stuff, until recently, that stuff would always just fall out.
Yeah, I use over ear stuff because I
clips.
can't
I was the same.
can't do those buds. Yeah.
But if you get them molded, it's like it kind of grabs a hold. It fits
I love that.
perfectly like a glove.
That's awesome.
And so those are really nice. The other ones I liked. So those decibel ones are top tier because you can kind of mold them. And then the other ones that I thought sounded the best were the ear racers.
Interesting. I never heard those.
They're a Guitar Center brand, and they're clear, and they're like the filter style. So they're
Nice.
clear, they have a little antenna, and they have a little metal chunk in them that is supposed to let sound pass through but block out a certain decibel.
That sounds kind of like the Heroes.
Those are similar. But the eraser ones that they sell at Guitar Center, they have some very different sizes. And you can buy like a pack that has all the sizes in it, and then figure out which one perfectly fits your ear.
Yeah.
And then just go buy that size. And they're
Smart.
if I remember it, they're numbered. It's been a couple years, so I could
Really?
be wrong, but I remember going I'm a 3, and I'd go to Guitar Center and buy the 3, and it would fit
I love
perfectly
that.
every time.
That's awesome. So when you do have an injury, I assume you have to scale back work to some degree. How do you manage client expectations when you have to do that to make sure you're not losing work or you're maintaining the pipeline of stuff you have?
Generally, people are pretty cool. Hey man, I'm having some tendon issue in my left hand. I probably should back out of this gig, is a pretty understandable statement. It's not sorry dude, I double booked or whatever, right? It's a pretty understandable thing to have an injury, but also just being smart about it. Like I said, if you're injured, in my world, that is things like tendons. If I do all the right stuff Monday through Thursday, I warm up really nice before the gig, I Theragun at set breaks. I feel like I can still get stuff done, especially if I just am really looking forward into the schedule. I'm looking forward in the future. I go I have that thing there. I got it. I want to do it this bad that I got to do all the stuff I need to do today, tomorrow, the next day. You see what I'm saying? That I'm taking care of it leading up to that thing.
Have you ever had to actually drop work? Do you have a list of a short list of referrals you give people when you can no longer do something?
Totally. So with the teaching stuff, I have a big list of other guitar teachers to this guy specializes in bluegrass. You are mentioning bluegrass, you should go to him, right? Or whatever. This guy is really great at singer-songwriter-y stuff. Go to him, right? And so, yeah, I kind of have a bit of a Rolodex of other folks and really their specific skill that I can sell them to people on. Because
I love that.
You got to have that. Every band I'm in has 3 drummers. We have the A guy, what a good friend of mine, Graham Good, calls the number 1, number 2. And then the guy that we can call last minute, right?
Yeah.
I think every professional group kind of works like that. That there's the guys who are in the band, and then we have the guys that we can call that are going to do a great job. And I that's true with everything. And you need to have those, especially me. I need a Rolodex of guitar players to sub for me.
How can people get in touch with you if they want to use your services, or just learn more about you? It sounds like you have some courses somewhere that people can purchase.
Yeah. So the easiest way to like learn guitar from me is on truefire.com. I have video courses of a bunch of different topics up there you can check out. I also have a website, lanceruby.com, has all my contact and a bunch of my live performances. I'm notoriously bad at updating it though. But
I feel that.
yeah, but so I have that website and then all the social media stuff. I have an Instagram. I think that's it. But yeah, just my name, Lance Ruby. I'm one of very few Lance Rubies.
Very cool musician name too, by the way. Like Lance Ruby, it just sounds like a musician.
My father's name is Rusty Ruby, which is even cooler.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. That's awesome.
My whole dad's side of the family, they have like alliteration. So like his brother is Rodney Ruby,
Nice.
Rusty Ruby. Their dad's name is Roland. And
Love
I'm
that.
like the first guy to break our R initials.
It's wild. I love that. Well, Lance, thank you so much for talking with me. I really appreciate it.
Of course, man. It's fun.
Did you enjoy this video? Hit like on YouTube or rate the podcast 5 stars on Spotify if you did. And share it if you think it could help others. Please also subscribe, check out my other videos, even if it's just as white noise, or support the channel via buymeacoffee.com/rockmarketingllc. I love learning, talking with people, and sharing ideas that can benefit anyone who listens. Your support helps me keep creating and covering the costs that go into making this content. Please drop any questions in the comment section and suggest yourself as a guest if you have a topic you're passionate about. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to sharing more with you soon.